All right. Thank you everyone for joining. I guess we can go ahead and get started as folks continue to trickle in. So welcome to the first Adaptive Cloud call of this year. I know that I think on January, we decided to not have one just because everyone was out of office. People were still coming back from holiday. February, we had some scheduling conflicts, but this will be the first one of this year, and we're going to obviously continue it going throughout the rest of the year. So if this is your first time joining the call, welcome. This call is focused on the Adaptive Cloud portfolio. So topics range anywhere from Azure Arc to Azure Local, Azure IoT, AKS. Presenters today will go over their topics, and then we'll engage in a Q&A session at the end and open up the floor to ask any questions that you all may have. We've had some issues. Hopefully they're resolved with the Q&A section as part of this call, so you can utilize that functionality. Some people might not have access, so we'll try it out this time. If not, feel free to just post your question in the chat or come off mute at the end of the call. So yes, I will go ahead and go over most of these things are the same things, goals and objectives, as well as our GitHub. So if you're not familiar, our GitHub is where we host all of our meeting links, recordings, Adaptive Cloud resources, calendar invites. For this meeting specifically, I know that I sent this out a little bit late. I guess technically this morning, maybe later in the night for some folks, depending on time zones. So ideally, I would like to send them out a little bit earlier, but I was slightly out of office for a hot second. So if you want to go ahead and put this calendar invite on your calendar for each month, we have a recurring calendar invite in our GitHub. So if you go and visit that link and scroll down in our README, you can find the calendar link invite, and it'll just place it for the first Wednesday at the same exact time each month. Similarly, for our recordings, if you have colleagues or friends that couldn't join this call and want to check it out in the future, we always post our recordings a day or two after the actual community call, as well as on our GitHub. We'll also post the slide deck, so if you miss any links or miss anything, you can go back and visit that as well. We have also created a LinkedIn group, so if you haven't already, please join our LinkedIn group. We've been trying to more regularly post, especially in the upcoming months as we have more product updates. So feel free to join that to stay tuned into the latest updates, and feel free to also post your updates there as well. I know I've been in communication with some individuals that have been creating some awesome content for the Adaptive Cloud portfolio and just things that people are doing. So feel free to also use that group to amplify some of the work that you are doing, because I know you're doing super cool things. So to get started, I will go over the Arc Jumpstart updates. Let me go ahead and move to the next slide. So this past, not March, but this past February, Arc Jumpstart hit 5 years. We have, with that release, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. With that release, we have actually released a new website refresh. So the new website refresh, it's going to have the same look and feel as to what it was before, but now you have the new improved accessibility. You'll have some light and dark mode functionality enabled. We have updated our mission statements if you wanted to go and check that out. So if you want to click learn more here, you can check that out. But on top of that, we've also created new GitHub issues as well. So it's more of a streamlined approach. If you all are interested in learning more in the exact details of all of the website updates, I don't want to spoil all of it. You can visit our Azure Arc blog that Lior had created, and I can go ahead and link that in the chat for you all to visit if you want to check it out now. But basically, it goes over all of the refreshed website updates. Optimized form factor was a huge one. So if you go and minimize your window, whether that might be in your desktop or if you want to go and visit this website, through your mobile phone or your iPad, it scales with that. So big improvements on accessibility and just being able to support multiple devices. So feel free to go ahead and check that out. And like I said, I went ahead and linked this blog post in the chat if you were all interested. And let me go back to the slide deck. I guess I can just go ahead and share from here, and then I'll start sharing from Teams once again. So yeah, I went ahead and linked it in the deck here. So you should be able to see that whenever I post the link, as well as reshare the slides through to Teams. So as for the ARC Jumpstart updates, I'm just going to continue sharing my screen here just because there's so many different things that I want to show you all. So recently we have rebranded Jumpstart Gems, or the APD bundle, so previously known as the Azure Assets, diagrams and posters, or posters and diagrams. That has now been rebranded to Jumpstart Gems. So if you go to our front page here, you will now see a icon here for Jumpstart Gems, and it's still the same look and feel, of course, and it's still downloaded as a zip file for all of the posters and diagrams that the Jumpstart team has been creating, but it has now been rebranded to Gems. So just an FYI, in case you're wondering and you're visiting the website trying to find diagrams, it's now been rebranded to Gems. So from that, we have also had 5 new drop contributions. So we're continually looking for new drop submissions. If you all have content, I know that I've seen some of you post really cool things that you're doing on LinkedIn, in your own personal GitHub repositories. You're building out, automation scripts, that type of thing. Feel free to submit a Jumpstart drop. That contribution process can be found through our community, contribute, and drops contribution guidelines. You can go through the wizard right now. We're working through a few back-end issues. So if you incur any issues with the creation wizard drop, just know that it's being fixed. But in the meantime, you can also scroll down and then also look into our into our manual approach as to how to submit a drop. That can be found here. So if you have to scroll down about midway through the page, but you can actually contribute through just creating your own GitHub repository, creating a JSON, uploading the schema, essentially filling out the details and going from there to submit a drop. So all of that information can be found through here. But like I said, there's plenty of content that I've been seeing out there. So feel free to submit a drop. You'll even be eligible at that point, once you submit one and get it approved, for a Jumpstart badge. There have also been a few new updates. So the remaining updates have been Jumpstart Lightning videos. So if you all aren't familiar with the Jumpstart Lightning series, you can find it at aka.ms/jumpstartlightning. Here you'll see a familiar face that I'm sure you all know, which is Lior. And he has all of the lightning videos here. We've been working on trying to get at least 4 videos out the door each month. So feel free to check out some of our most recent things. We're working on a security series right now, so more information to come on that. But feel free to check out Jumpstart Lightning. Like I said, we'll be regularly posting in the upcoming months. So yeah. And then the remaining updates here are just some enhancements. We're starting to deprecate several scenarios to streamline some of our offerings. I don't want to take too much time because I know some folks want to have some demos and everything else to present. But if you do want to check out more, feel free to go to our ARC Jumpstart website, and you can actually go and click on the release notes here, and then you can find all of the various updates that we have made. So it gives you a little bit more of a detailed list to show some bugs, issues, enhancements, that type of stuff that's been going on, as well as the newest Jumpstart drops and lightning videos. So that's available now. Feel free to check it out and let us know if you have any questions. We're always happy to have any feedback and of course new contributions. So yeah, I'll go ahead and stop sharing here and then re-present in Teams. It's going to start for me from the beginning. Let's see. Okay, hold on 1 second. It always starts at the beginning. Alrighty, and I will go ahead and hand it over to Arnav to talk about the ARC-enabled server updates.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kiana. Great being here as always, and excited to share a little bit about some of our Azure Arc-enabled server updates. So with that, we can go to the next slide. And obviously, we do have a new agent release with February of this month as well. We had quite a few release notes that capture all of the key facets of that agent release. A number of fixes, especially around the start experiment for authentication with your Windows Server onboarding, as well as some log file fixes as well. So you can check out our notes. But a few areas we wanted to really double click on in terms of how you can really engage with the Azure Arc Server product group. So the first is, we're really thinking about holistically how we're positioning Arc from a SCCM server management perspective. And a really important part of that and gap today is actually software distribution as well as app patching. For your Azure native VMs, you have VM apps where you're able to upload a VM application package to the Azure Compute Gallery. And just like a VM extension, you're able to specify a scope of devices that you want to deploy that application to. This is a capability we're looking to actually support for Azure Arc-enabled servers, and more holistically think about the SCCM modernization story for our Arc server customers. So if you're interested in talking to us about this, we'd love your feedback. I've set up this VM apps sign up for Arc server. You're able to, set up time with the product group. We'd love to have discussions on this and more holistically about your software distribution needs across distribution points, maintenance windows, etc. So this is a great way to engage with the product group in an area that we're actively working on. The other pieces we actually have documented how to modernize from SCCM to Azure Arc with just some of the key mapping between scenarios, right? You might not be aware about all of the Azure management services that map to key jobs to be done with SCCM. For example, OS patching with Azure Update Manager, OS configuration, app configuration with machine configuration, reporting out of the box with change tracking inventory, remote scripting with run command. But this documentation really outlines these are sort of the current capability mappings. These are the current gaps. And these are some of the current plus points of Azure Arc, like the fact that we support Linux, the Migrate integration, Copilot integration, and also the fact that all of these services are included at no additional cost if you are testing to your Windows Server software assurance, which is a big one financially for our customers as well. So we're really looking for your feedback here and appreciate anyone that's interested in participating and engaging with the product group on this one. So that's one of our major updates. Cool. And the next one, and this is a little bit more tactical, is we have a private preview coming up. My colleague Maddie is driving, so you can also email her as well with auto agent upgrades. So we know we've promised this for quite some time, opt-in only, obviously. We're having the private preview for that coming up. So if you're interested in signing up, you can use that form in order to sign up for the auto agent upgrade private preview. And again, this is a way to, stay on the latest version of the Arc agent and really reducing some of those friction points of having to keep updating the connected machine agent with its kind of continuous updates in terms of new security, new functionality capability. So really making it easier to keep your Arc estate up to date and get the latest capabilities. And if you're interested in trying out this feature, just hitting private preview, you can go ahead and sign up using that form. But those are the main opportunities and previews we wanted to share with folks on this call. And thanks again for your engagement. If there's any questions, you can feel free to drop a note to me or Maddie. Our emails were in these last two slides. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thanks, Arnav. Always love having Arnav come on the Adaptive Cloud Community Call to always give Arc server updates. So up next, we have Amir, and he'll be presenting SSH posture control.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, Kiana. Hi to the whole community here. Thank you so much for having me. So today, as Kiana spoke about, I'll be covering Azure Linux security policies. So I'll be handling SSH posture control and the Azure Linux security baseline. So first, I'm going to start with SSH posture control. What is it? It essentially enables you to audit and configure your SSH security posture on different Linux distros such as Ubuntu, Red Hat, Azure Linux, and many more like CentOS. It integrates directly with Azure Governance Services. I know you probably heard Arnav talk earlier about machine configuration. Well, we actually work directly with them to kind of deploy the policies from Azure Policy directly onto your Linux-based machines. And in doing that, you can ensure your compliance with your SSHD standards, reduce your attack surface, and ensure that your fleet is consistent with its SSHD-based rules. So within SSH Posture Control right now, we have it set up kind of in two flows. One being an audit only mode, and the second one being an audit and configure mode. So usually the workflow that a lot of our admins or personas take are auditing first, gathering those results, basically going up the chain of command to see, okay, how should we standardize our fleet? And then making the decision to implement the audit and configure mode to standardize all of the rules across the fleet of devices, such as port, such as ciphers, such as MAC algorithms, and a lot more that I think we'll be covering in the next slide. Yeah, so as I said before, here are some of the rules that are covered within SSH posture control specifically, such as max auth tries, log level, allow and deny groups and users, and more, including client alive interval and things that are essentially very pivotal to SSHD based rules. So on this part, I'm going to show you a bit of a demo, give everybody a little bit of time to see what the workflow is for this. It should be about 5 minutes, and then after this, we'll move on to the Azure Linux Security Baseline.
Hello, my name is Amir Brady, and I'll be showing you a demo on the SSH Posture Control feature.
I manage security configuration for a fleet of Linux machines. These include Azure VMs and Azure Arc-enabled machines. My organization's security policy office has decided that we need to standardize SSHD ports across this fleet. In this example, let's say we're standardizing on the default of port 22. I could easily use the configure SSH policy in Azure to enforce that on all of my machines. But before I do, I need to understand what ports are being used already so I can understand what's going to change and who might be impacted. To get that information, I'm going to start with the audit SSH policy. So here we can go to policy, definitions, filter SSH, and look for the audit SSH security posture for Linux policy. We will then assign the policy, apply the scope, then go through the parameters to ensure that this is set for the SSH port of 22. Create a managed identity, and then we can review and create. Now, since this policy is assigned, we can give it about 10 to 15 minutes to audit through all of the Linux machines that we have in our fleet.
With the audit policy in place, I can click through to individual machines to see what port they are using. That's fine, but I want to see all of the machines at once, so I'll use an Azure Resource Graph query to do this. Click Open Query here, and then I'll open my query. And this is the query to look through the different ports on my fleet of machines. So I'll click on Run Query, and then this shows one row per machine with the audit data for the port in the columns. I can already see that some of my machines are using port 22 already. For those machines, there will be no change when I enforce this rule through the configure SSH policy. I can also see that there are some machines that are using different ports today. These will be modified when I deploy the configure SSH policy. Now, fast forward a few days. I've talked to all of my stakeholders to make sure that they are aware that on those machines, the port is going to change and that they need to update their workflows accordingly. Everybody has signed off on the change, and so I will begin the enforcement of assigning the configure SSH policy. So from here, I'll click on policy. I will click on definitions. I will filter SSH. Then I will click on configure SSH security posture for Linux. I will assign the policy. I will choose my scope. Go through my parameters. Ensure that the port is set at 22 and that my ARC enabled and connected servers set to true as well. I can then click on remediation, and to ensure that when I assign this policy, it actually goes back and changes the ports on all of the machines that were spoken about prior. And then from there, I can click on review and create. Fast forward a few hours to ensure all of my machines have caught up. I can use the same query as before to see what port number they are all using. And as expected, they are all now using port 22. Now my fleet is consistent and will stay consistent, which is great for security and for productivity. Although we focused on port number in this example, I can also use the configure SSH policy to set things like allowed groups, logon banner, timeouts, and so on. This all leads to enhanced security, consistency, and productivity in my environment.
All righty. Just want to make sure that everybody got a chance to see that video wholly. I know that the timing was a little bit off, but was everybody able to get to the end of it? Just want to see any thumbs up or anything.
Amir, I think a few folks in the Q&A section were not able to view the video for some reason. So if you could share a link maybe in the chat with, a shareable link that's allowed for external folks, feel free to post that in the chat and people can view that later.
All right, perfect. I will work on that for you folks so you'll be able to view it externally. So sorry about that. Yeah, okay. So I will just do that really quickly so you folks will be able to see it. Let me see. Well, I'll work on that towards the end of the session. So, the next thing that we'll be covering today is going to be the Azure Security Baseline. So essentially, just to kind of give you guys a background, the Azure Security Baseline is currently in a stage of being revamped. Right now, on Azure, it covers about 700,000 Linux devices, whether that be ARC-enabled VMs or other Linux VMs within the cloud. And right now, my team has been working on kind of revamping those rules and essentially trying to make it as secure as possible. So this month, actually, we've released our public preview for the audit version of the Linux security baseline with an enhanced evaluation with updated logic and clear evidence for pass-fail. We've done extensive testing with all 200 to 300 plus rules that are within the baseline. It has a small footprint with low-level code that should be able to work on most, if not every Linux machine that you have. And we're also working towards future agility with more industry aligned rules such as CIS and more customization. So I think hopefully you can see that little bar at the bottom. It does say coming February/March 2025. It's actually just entered public preview right now in conjunction with the Azure Policy and Machine Configuration team. And it'll essentially auto-migrate the old Linux audit as a policy over to the new rules. So if you're already using the security baseline for Linux, keep a lookout for the auditing behavior on your machines as rules might change. And if you would like any additional resources, such as custom graph queries to kind of query all of the data that is there, with the new baseline. If you are looking to implement the Linux security baseline, please take a chance to, I don't know if you could take a capture of like the email at the bottom, the Linux security configuration management email there, or just reach out directly to me, and I can help you get started on that path. So this part is just handling the audit portion. The next thing would be our configure side. So essentially, kind of how the same way that SSH worked, where we have an audit policy and we also have a configuration policy, is the same here with the whole Azure Linux security baseline, where up to 95% of the rules within the baseline can be auto set slash remediated. So essentially the same workflow with SSH. If you have found out that you want all of your machines to have a certain rule on or off, you can actually go within the policy, and when you're doing your policy enforcement, you can set those rules to be automatically remediated. And the rest of the 5% are rules that we think IT admins should be able to do without any kind of interference from us in case things that are set can break the system. So we went through a lot of testing with every single individual rule to ensure that the security posture of a whole Linux device would be covered without causing any added issues. So, as I said before, the tagline here says February/March of 2025, which is actually right now. So this is actually entering private preview as of this week. And if you are interested in this, please take a chance to take that email down and or reach out to me directly, and I can get you forward on that. And then right here, I do have a demo towards the baselines. We're going to try it once again. And individually, I will have links ready for you to view the videos for SSH and for baseline separately.
In my case, I'm choosing to use Azure Cloud Shell, but you could use any environment that you like. So my goal is to create a lot of machines and have them get the baseline applied to them. So I'm going to create a resource group where all these machines are going to go. And I am going to assign the baseline policy to that resource group. And the key command here is this AZ policy assignment create. This is analogous to the workflow that Amir showed earlier. Okay, now that I have my resource group and I have my policy already assigned to it, I'm ready to create machines. In this case, I'm choosing to use a bicep template to create a set of machines. 9 was the most I could create in this region at this moment. I have to get my quota increased, but 9 will be plenty for our purposes. And that'll take a few minutes to run. After a few minutes, we see the first signs of activity. The Azure policies picked up on these machines and so on. If we want to get a sense of where we're at in the process, we can use Azure Resource Graph and this resource type called Guest Configuration Resources, just to kind of get a broad view of what's out there. Now, warning, this is going to be a huge info dump. I'll show more refined queries later on. So what you'll see here is similar to what you would see in portal views if you were to drill into each machine and see, oh, here are all the rules that apply, which ones are compliant, which ones are not compliant. And right now, lots of them are non-compliant because we've just started. And so after a few more minutes, we'll see the machines come more and more into compliance. Initially, it's about a 50-50 mix, depending on what distro you use, of things that are compliant or not compliant. Some more time has passed, so we can see machines coming into compliance, and also show you a more sophisticated query we can use to summarize all that raw data we saw a moment ago. So this is going to return per machine a summary of how many compliant rules were found, how many non-compliant rules were found, and then representing that as a percentage. So it's about 98%. For all of these machines are already there. This machine, it looks like, is still coming along, so we can check back in on that later. One last thing I want to highlight to tie this to what I was saying earlier about the quality of the evaluation is if we go back to the kind of raw, unsummarized data that's rule by rule status, you can see not only the pass or fail, but also information about how the check was implemented. That to give you confidence that yes, this really did evaluate the system. It's not a ghost pass or a ghost fail. And if in case you get an unexpected pass or fail, it gives you a jumping off point to investigate or to provide feedback.
All right, with that video reaching an end, first and foremost, I wanted to thank everybody for being here. I know we ran into a couple of difficulties with videos there, but I'm going to work right now on ensuring that the whole group here will be able to have both videos so they can understand a little bit more about Linux and, Linux SSH and Linux security baseline so they can better protect their fleet of Linux devices. I want to point people out to the contacts here for both for both the security baseline and for SSH posture control. We have links here for the documentation directly for SSH posture control and the contacts for the security baseline. So I'm going to work on getting those videos to you now, but I wanted to thank everybody for being here. I'm seeing in the chat there are a couple messages about about the videos, and I'm actually running into the same issues as well. So hopefully I can get you guys all of that information promptly. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Amir. So moving on, in the future, we'll just have presenters share their screen with their recorded demo so you all won't have issues clicking on the video. We'll do some work in the back end for post-editing for the purpose of the recording. So if folks wanted to check it out later, then they can. And as I said before, Amir, whenever he has the links available, I'll post them in the chat. And FYI to all, if you don't have permissions to view the chat, it's likely because you're not yet a member of the Teams channel. So to join the Teams channel, go to our GitHub. I'll post the link here in the, well, I guess you won't have the link in the chat because you don't have chat access. If you visit ak.ms/Azure Adaptive Cloud GitHub, all one word, it should come up. And then you can scroll down in the README file to request to join the Teams channel. Once I get that information from you all, then I can go and add you to the Teams channel. But I saw a few submissions come in, so I'll do that right after this call. But just an FYI to all if you don't have access to the chat. So thank you everyone for joining. That is all we have today. We had one more presenter, and hopefully he'll be able to come in our April call. But speaking of April call, that will be April 2nd. So again, the first Wednesday of every month. Still the same time, so 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, depending, I don't know what all the translations are from around the world for time zones, but still the same time each month, unless noted otherwise. And if you all have any questions, now would be the time to raise your hand, come off mute. I believe Arnav had a conflicting call, so any Arc server updates, the questions that you all might have, you might just want to throw those in the chat, and I can make sure that Arnav is able to respond to those and we can get you answers, or feel free to also post them in the Teams channel. But if you have any specific questions for Amir, feel free to come off mute, or as well as me for Jumpstart.
Would you please repeat the instructions for joining the Teams channel?
Yes. So if you go to aka.ms/Azure Adaptive Cloud GitHub, all one word, you can then go there and then join the Teams channel through there. It's also noted that the link itself is noted on slide. Let me just scroll back. Is noted on slide 4 here. So you can go to that link, and then, like I said, join the Teams channel through there. You can also feel free to join our LinkedIn group as well, but for access to the chat, if you don't have access, you can go request access through there. Any other questions? If not, we can go ahead and move on. If you have any questions come up later, feel free to reach out to Amir and myself. We can make sure that your questions get answered, or also feel free to post them in the Teams channel that's heavily monitored. So if you have any questions, we can find the right contacts to get those questions answered for you. Last chance for questions, though. If not, that will be the end of our, oh wait, there's two related questions regarding Azure Arc. First question is, we noticed a scheduled task on our Windows servers for the auto update. However, these scheduled tasks are failing on some servers as the send log function is failing of an SSL error. Just wondering if you're aware of this. I personally do not work in that space, so that might be a question that I'll have to punt to someone else, but I can certainly find the answer to that question. Thomas, I'm not sure if you're aware at all, if you're still on.
I think this is when we're talking about the auto update for the agent, then that's in private preview, or in public preview, I should say. I think I'm not sure, I'm not on the heartbeat of this. I think that would be Arnav. So I think it would be good to reach out to him.
Cool, yeah. Jari, I'm imagining that since you have chat access, you'll be able to see the responses. So I'll make sure that this question gets answered by Arnav, and he can reply through the chat if that works at a later time. Cool. Any other questions? And it looks like Amir just posted both demos that you all hopefully are able to access. If not, feel free to let us know. All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending. Like I said, the link is there at Azure Adaptive Cloud GitHub if you want to join the Teams channel, so you can have access to the chat, and I think also access to the Q&A potentially. But if you have any feedback or any topics that you would like covered in the future, feel free to submit the form linked in that slide there. We're always looking for feedback, always looking for topics that you all might find interesting. And if you even want to come in and present the Adaptive Cloud Community Call, feel free to reach out to us if you have any specific things that are relating to, of course, the Adaptive Cloud. So thank you again, everyone, for joining, and we will see you back next month.